Ele é especialista em SAP, é um dos nossos gênios de SAP aí, fora o Deus Júlio, né, que mudou para Gold. Inclusive eu estou mudando para Sunshine Coast em maio. Tomei a decisão de sair da Jungle Life aqui. Eu sei. Qualidade de vida, né, cara? Eu quero surfar, eu quero viver de boa, encher o bumbum de areia, não tem? Ficar pegando poeira, tô perdendo cabelo, cara. Tá louco. Então o Julião aqui vai falar um pouco da experiência dele também, um pouco mais do que ele tem para oferecer aí pra galera.
Boa noite, pessoal, tudo bem? Bom, eu vou só fazer a apresentação em português. A gente combinou que a gente vai fazer as apresentações em inglês, mais para a gente forçar também, né? Que é como a gente tem a necessidade de usar aqui no mercado australiano. Então, a apresentação eu vou rodar em inglês, mas só para me apresentar para vocês. Vim em 2016, estou aqui há 2 anos e meio. E aí tentei atacar esse nicho específico, que foi basicamente empresas de pequeno porte que procuravam pelos especialistas. E foi um processo longo, cara. Tipo, eu apliquei e recebi o primeiro contato em julho de 2015. E até chegar na Austrália foi em setembro de 2016, mais de 1 ano. Então eu fui tocando em paralelo, deixei levar e no final a oportunidade veio, né? Então tem chance mesmo, igual o moço falou. É só a gente realmente continuar batendo na porta que uma hora pinta essa oportunidade pra galera também, tá bom? E agora eu vou trocar a tecla SAP aí. Então, good evening, guys. Yeah, this is the agenda for tonight, right? We have 3 presentations and a small break actually for the jobs. And this is actually my presentation. So we use the title, Where Should I Go Now? Because if you guys are SAP consultants, I can see someone here just doing this movement. Like I think you guys can relate with that. SAP has been changing a lot in the last decade. And for SAP consultants, it's really difficult to understand where should we go. We don't have any direction from SAP itself. And because of that, it's difficult to understand where we start this upskilling journey, right? So I hope tonight I can help you guys a little bit to understand the new technologies and how these affect all of us. This is the agenda of my presentation. So basically we start with the upskilling journey of the SAP consultant. We talk after about the biggest changes in the SAP world and about the SAP cloud strategy. It's one of the main points. And after that, I'm going to explain how we can adapt based on the consultancy role. So for functional consultants, basis, and for technical consultants as well. Upskilling journey. So the image 1 is the SAP consultant starting the upskilling journey. And the image 2 is the SAP consultant after 5 minutes. I think this is actually a common feeling. It's pretty difficult when you start and realize you have so much to learn. And there are some reasons behind that, and I think I can explain you guys tonight. So just talking first about the important changes in the last decade. If you are an SAP consultant, probably already checked one of these items in the list. So the release of HANA database created by SAP, the transition from SAP ECC to S/4HANA, the new ERP from SAP, inclusion of SAP Gateway and OData services in the integration portfolio, SAP Fiori as the new user interface, and this is actually a huge impact for functional consultants and ABAP developers. The move to the cloud via SAP Cloud Platform. This is actually one of the points that I'm going to discuss the most here. And the digital transformation with new information systems like SuccessFactors for HR, Ariba for procurement, and C4HANA for SAP CRM. Common issues that we face during this upskilling journey, they are usually related with the SAP strategy, so the 4 items on the top, and sometimes with the personal search, right? So official materials, certifications, project experience, right? And like we know, the costs are really high as well. So from the company strategy, we have the new company acquisitions. SAP has been investing a lot of money in this area. They spent recently $8 billion of American dollars with a company called Qualtrics. It's actually for BI and CRM as well. And with these new company acquisitions, we have problems with constant rebrandings. So, for example, in the CRM space, they changed names 4 times in 5 years. So it was SAP CRM, the first version. After that, Hybris. After the Hybris, they use SAP Marketing Cloud, Commerce Cloud, and now they have C4HANA. So if you start with one and you are not following the changes, you can basically think, okay, this this tool is actually not available anymore. But this is actually not the point. It's because they just changed the name, you know. With that, we can have duplicate products. So we can have duplicate products because they are buying a lot of companies. They sometimes offer the same things they have in the portfolio, and you don't know which one you should study. You can start with one and just discover they are going to throw in the rubbish. And the technical delay compared to the competitors is actually the biggest one because this forces us to learn in the same level SAP is delivering new stuff. And it's actually quite impossible to do that. Regarding our search, we have problems with official training material. So these three here, they are probably the main ones you usually check. SAP Press, Learning Hub, and Open SAP. This one is quite good, but the prices are fair but not cheap. That's the whole problem. But you have good materials. But the whole problem is that if you want an official certification, you need to go for this one. And this is really, really damn expensive. Like if you don't have a company to provide you this access, you're going to spend a lot of money, and it's actually not feasible. And this one is actually the best one because it's free. But the problem is that they don't provide enough material. So you can see like superficial things, but never going to find the experience you need in real projects, right? Anyways, like you can try a little bit of each one of them, depending on the money you have to invest in that particular moment, and you start to collect some experience with that. And the lack of project experience is actually a big problem. It could be a big problem. But the good part is that nowadays you have trial subscriptions. So you can go to SAP Cloud Platform, or you can get a HANA Express instance installed inside your machine, and you can basically try to learn and play with these kind of new technologies. So it's a kind of way to jump that barrier. About the SAP Cloud Strategy, right? Because I mentioned that Cloud Strategy is actually the biggest point in my opinion. It's the one that brings the most important items that affect us. So SAP started this strategy a few years ago, and we know SAP was always well known because of good business processing, right? So they have really good business processes, and they offer like good solutions for the customers. They were really good with data processing, but they were really, really shitty about, sorry about the word, but they were really shitty about user experience, user interface, and with cloud capabilities. So they are trying to become one of the new AWS, GCP, but there is no way. Like it's really difficult to reach the same level at this stage. But I believe they are doing a good work in the current space of time they had to basically upskill, right? So there are a lot of advantages for SAP. You can see like they have reduced overall costs with maintenance and support. So this means basically everything's controlled by SAP. They have their own data centers. They have their own employees coordinating the basis infrastructure. So they can save a lot of money with that. Like we have nowadays probably 400,000 implementations around the world. And every time they release a new support package, imagine the number of access they receive in the support. It's really expensive for them, right? They have increased the revenue because it's not based on user license anymore. It's based on service consumption. So you pay for what you consume. This actually brings more money to the company as well. You have better adaptation to standard processes and fast implementation because they are basically not providing a good extensibility. So this forces people actually to adapt to their tool now. Instead of having a lot of extensions, you basically go for what you have in the SAP standard. And it's quite easy to expand the list of services and innovate in different areas. So this means basically they can release a new service without creating impacts in the things that are already working. Advantage for consultants, like at first sight, is what the fuck is the advantage, right? Like SAP is actually receiving a lot of money, improving their services and receiving more and more, but consultants are basically just facing a lot of problems to stay up to date. So it's difficult to understand the advantage. But in my opinion, actually, the main point is that SAP is not becoming obsolete with the rest of the market. And this means basically as an SAP consultant in the future, if you want to migrate to different areas, you still have the option to do that. Like with cloud capabilities and user interfaces using JavaScript code, they are using Node.js. So things we are used to seeing the rest of the market, now they are actually in-house. And you can basically get benefit of that as well. So in the future, like you can see the benefit. But at this moment, I know like these reactions actually the one that comes to our heads, right? So how I basically adapt to the changes in that scenario. So here just a quick image from Do 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 Edu. I don't know if you guys know this cartoon. I don't know the name in English, but yeah, probably it's not the same. So these are the three main areas we were used to see in the past: the functional consultant, the ABAP consultant, and the basis consultant, right? For people that are not part of the area, functional is basically the guy that analyzes requirements with the users and just collect that and send to a developer. The ABAP developer is the guy that delivers the code, develop that. And the basis is the responsible for the infrastructure, right? These were actually the three pillars of the SAP career for a long time. And this is changing a little bit. So I'm going to show you guys in each one of the areas. Functional consultants. I think the main problem for functional consultants in the S/4HANA space, the main product, the ERP, you have the module simplifications. So it's basically financial module is one of the most affected ones. You have a lot of new tables, a lot of new processes, and this basically changes the way the functional consultants expose the product to the customers. So you need to be on top of these changes as well. New user interfaces, SAP Fiori, and there are some other interfaces we are going to explore. They've been changing the way you present the product to the customers as well. So you need to understand the new transactions, the new applications as we call, and show that to the customers in a proper way. And the new configuration methodology via SAP Clouds. So in the cloud applications, they are not going to use S-Pro as in the past. You need to go directly to the solution on the web and basically go in the specific application and change the content by yourself. So for functional consultants, I think this is the biggest change because it's not S-Pro based anymore, right? I mentioned about C4HANA because this was actually my main area. I was an SAP CRM consultant. And because of Salesforce, of course, like we've been losing a lot of market, and SAP is trying to explore the customer experience with C4HANA. Yeah, this was actually one of the reasons I decided to send the resumes, and I'm here nowadays. C4HANA is actually the new bet of SAP. They are investing a lot of money on this area. But to be honest, I'm not too sure if this is going to be like well received by the market. But in the next years, we are going to find out the answer. So basis consultant, right? Infrastructure. So for the base consultants, there is a risk in the future because since everything is moving to the cloud now, in the future, if SAP controls all the data centers, the demand for bases will be actually quite reduced. Because if SAP has their own employees doing all the verifications in infrastructure, you can have like not so many opportunities in the market. But this is actually just a thinking for the future. Nowadays, you still have 400,000 of on-premise installations around the world. So there's a lot of work, even so. And with the new implementations, with the new products, you need to upskill in this particular set of products to understand how to install them, understand from an architectural perspective. So HANA-DB, first one, S/4HANA, doing a setup in the SAP Cloud Platform to connect to multiple environments. And some specific ones, as I mentioned, S4HANA, S4 CRM is a new add-on for CRM on top of HANA. Probably most part of the people never heard about that, but I know because it's CRM. And HANA AFL for predictive analytics. So with this kind of knowledge that is actually specialized in one single component or product, you can actually find a way to enter in the market as well. Another thing that I mentioned here is actually the other cloud providers. I was not expecting to stay in front of the logos here, but yeah, basically AWS, Azure, and GCP, they are the main cloud providers in the market nowadays. And SAP has been closing a lot of agreements with Azure and GCP, Google Cloud. And even with on-premise installations, you can basically rent not a container, but a virtual machine in one of these cloud providers and install the SAP full license there. It's not the SAP cloud, but you are still using cloud from other providers. So you can do that actually you can learn that actually to stay up to date to the market. And basically like someone needs to install SAP on Azure and you know both, like you have the job, right? The ABAP development area, I left, like I am, as a base I have ABAP development in my blood, right? So that's the reason I left to the end, but it's actually not the only reason you are going to discover. The ABAP development nowadays is actually with a reduced scope, especially because we have new technologies in the market. And if you are an ABAP developer and you don't have interest to move away from the ABAP development, you still have these areas to explore. So ABAP OO is still valid learning, oriented object architecture. The new ABAP syntax with 7.4. SAP Gateway and Data Service is actually one of the new products in the integration portfolio. It's really good to know. BOPF, BRF Plus, and SAP is now moving to the ABAP on the cloud for RESTful service. This is actually brand new, but someday in the future we can still see actually some traction in this area. And I mentioned here an important note to forget about SAP with GUI from now on. So I'm not meaning you are not going to enter never anymore. What I'm saying is basically SAP GUI is actually not the biggest focus because user interfaces are actually now in the web. So you can still do some application code, but it's not actually like in the old good times. And now you can see with the same color, I just changed the title to technical. And this is what I've been doing actually, even when I talk with some friends, I don't use the ABAP title anymore. I use the technical senior consultant because I think this actually brings more visibility to the other space that SAP is pushing, right? So I included 6 sessions here, so we have 2 slides. We have a little bit about user interface, SAP Fiori and the UX strategy. So I'm not going to comment each one of them because there's a lot of things here, but I believe that they are going to share this presentation and I have a material in the end that's going to support in details each one of them. But what I want to bring as an idea is basically just to let you know that you have these important topics in each one of these streams. And if you are interested about user interface or if you are interested about cloud platform, these are actually good points to start your upskilling journey, right? So in the SAP Fiori you have SAP UI5, the JavaScript library. You have SAP Fiori for iOS. It's a specific library designed only for iOS devices. You have ABAP WebDim Pro. Is still used. So if you have experience with that, you can reuse. And Screen Personas. To be honest, I don't know what it is, but I know it's there. So that's the reason I included. HANA development, you have a lot of things as well. HANA Access, classic and advanced model. The strategy of code push down. So like we already lost the layer in the ABAP that controls the user interface. But we are losing also the layer that controls the data processing. So this means basically like instead of doing ABAP code to select the data, you go to the database level. So for people that they were working with database before, this might be a good chance to enter in the SAP market. You never know. Like everything is connected now. So these are the topics really important. Core data service, AMDP, SQL script. And you have those application function libraries that I mentioned. It's a good point to see if you have time as well. In the SAP Cloud Platform space, Web IDE, definitely my first suggestion. Web IDE, my first suggestion. Cloud Foundry, integration tools. And this one, like if you can check, Extension Factory looks pretty promising. And these are the 3 left. Integration, so this is actually for PI consultants. If you were working in that area, just have a look in these items. They are going to be really helpful. Analytics, SAP BW, SAP BO, right? So Julio is actually from this space, the same guy they mentioned in the beginning, right? He's a big friend of mine as well. So this is actually a collection of everything we discussed in the last few days. There are a lot of things to explore. And at least SAP Leonardo, this area, to be honest, I can see any valid product being implemented at this moment. But if you understand these concepts, it might be really good for the future. So even without knowing a specific product that SAP is going to push forward, just have a quick look about the concepts. This is going to be the future. And before we conclude that, if you're looking for more info, I usually publish some articles through SAP blogs. I've been doing that since I arrived in Australia. I think it's a good way to actually explore your portfolio as a technical consultant or functional consultant. And in the beginning, it's really crazy because like you get scared about how you're writing, but after 1 year, like you're going to write like huge books, you know? It's quite an interesting thing to do as a consultant. So if you guys have any queries, and I believe you still have, just have a look in this article, and I'm going probably to solve most part of the things you are questioning now. But anyways, like I'm going to just grab a beer after, and if you want to have a chat, just go to the back of the room, and we can have a good chat about that. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Valeu, cara. Valeu. Obrigado. Valeu.